What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy, Motor City Don P. We're back here once again. You already know what time it is. It's Friday. So that means that we're going to talk about stuff on Friday about the offseason. And we're going to get into some things that are very, very interesting. I don't know who needs to hear this, but there are some Lions fans that need to hear this. But before we get into all that, when you see me in front of your TV, one thing is for certain, and three things are for sure. Number one, the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it. Number two, we came to give you stats, not none of that static. And number three, perhaps the most important number of them all, number three. Want to make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. You may be asking yourself, how, Don, how, Mr. P, does one keep their Lions news pragmatic? Well, it's very simple. It's easy. I'm going to tell you. You know, I don't be holding out, right? Just smash that like button. You got to subscribe. You got to share it with your peoples. Once you've done these things, you have indeed kept your Lions news pragmatic. And speaking about your peoples, when you share this with your mothers, your brothers, your fathers, your sisters, your cousins, your uncles, your brothers, your fathers, your sisters, your brothers, you name it, you have indeed cared about those people. What up, though, everybody in the chat? What up, though, Tactical Sport? What up, though, Mr. Morale 313? What up, though, everybody who is lurking and not working, lurking and they're smirking? And if you're twerking or doing something else, I don't want to know about it. Don't tell me. Keep it to yourself. All right. So we got some things to get into today. You saw it. You saw what I said. I just did the thumbnail. Was running a little bit behind. The question was something about the Detroit Lions being able to. The Detroit Lions could have been aggressive and still remain contenders. That's right. Apparently, that is a thing in the NFL. I've got some sound for you guys that I want to play. There's a GM by the name of Howie Roseman. And if you guys didn't know it, that's the guy that's on the thumbnail. His name's Howie Roseman. He's been the Eagles general manager for ages. I mean, he even got fired and brought back. He was so good. Right? There was pressure from the fan base to fire this man. So Jeffrey Lurie fired him, tried somebody else out, and brought him back. Okay? Now, the Philadelphia Eagles general manager and head coach addressed the media today as they wanted to put a bow on their 2025 season. Obviously, they lost in the wild card round of the playoffs to the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, they didn't get the job done, but they got the job done last year. They won the Super Bowl. They hoisted a Lombardi. And they were talking about different things, and I didn't watch it because there was one clip that I found very, very interesting, and it came towards the end of the press conference, the very end of the press conference. General Manager Howie Roseman wanted to clarify things for the fans. Before I get into that, here's the thing. This is going to be a theme all offseason until Brad Holmes shows that he can do something. What up, though, Irv Gotti? That he can do something different than what he's been doing. Instead of bumping his head against the same wall and thinking that something's going to be different, we're going to be talking about him. We're going to be talking about character. We're going to be talking about his philosophies. We're going to be talking about these things because there's a lot of things that aren't helping this football team progress. There are some things that are helping the football team progress, but it's the things that are not helping that we're going to be focusing on because that's what we care about. We're trying to get to the Super Bowl. So Howie Roseman is a general manager who has won 2 Super Bowls and been to 3. He's got 2 rings. There's pictures on the internet with him having cigars in his mouth. Why does he have cigars? Because he's celebrating. And he can celebrate because he's built Super Bowl winning teams. "66% of the Super Bowls his teams go to, they win. 66%. He wasn't the general manager when Donovan McNabb and Terrell Owens went. No, 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 no. It was Doug Peterson. It was Nick Sirianni for 2. Okay? So 66% of the time when Howie Roseman's teams go to the Super Bowl, they win. 2 out of 3. Howie Roseman, with a 66% Super Bowl winning rate, wanted to talk to the fans. I listened to the entire Brad Holmes press conference. I don't think he addressed the fans one time. Am I wrong here? Brent DeWitt says Brad doesn't need to try. He's got to get it done. Facts. He's got to get it done. But you got to try to get it done before you can get it done. So he's going to need to try to do something different than what he's been doing. As I said, I don't remember him addressing the fans. Nothing. I don't remember him clarifying anything about his philosophy. Nothing. I don't remember those things. Mr. Morale 313 says he don't give a damn about you. You know it all fans. Exactly. No sound. How's there no sound? Is there sound now? Is there sound? Because I see my levels going up. Or is there sound? Oh, okay. I was about to say. I'm like, I see the levels going up. I'm very aware these days about this sound and making sure that I got my levels over here so I can see them all. Do you think Sheila will stop Brad in his tracks around May 1st if he starts to do the same thing as he did last year? Stop before he gets too far in the hole. No, because that's when you don't get re-signed. That's when you don't get extended as the GM. Okay. Sheila, behind closed doors, has made her feelings very clear to both Brad and Dan. You can see it in the early movements of this offseason. You can see that that Dan is under immense pressure to get this OC hire right. You can see that because he's interviewing everybody and their mama. Old school, new school players, old school fools. Casket is jumping like kangaroos. Skew it on the Bobby, we ain't trying to lose. Okay. Hashtag if you know, you know. Use the hashtag. Dan Campbell is going guys that got experience, guys that got no experience, guys that have been coordinators before, guys that haven't been coordinators before, guys he knows, guys he doesn't know. Because that Johnny Morton debacle probably, okay, during the sit down that Brad and Dan had with Sheila, she probably said, and Dan, where was your antennas in this OC search? Because all I know is Johnny Morton got the job. And he was cheeks, Dan. He was cheeks. He was so cheeks, Dan, that you had to take play calling away from him. That's the second time you've had to do that, Dan. Anthony Lynn and now Johnny Morton. Dan, I'm not going to tell you too many more times. You on thin ice, bro. Right? Even though Brad Holmes came to the press conference humble, eating humble pie, this is what he did not do. Y'all ready? Oh, what the frick? Oh my God. I love when that happens. I love it. Freaking. Bro, YouTube is so damn sensitive. It pisses me off. All right.
How about it?
I had it queued up and everything. And then my freaking the palm of my hand hit an arrow or some video or some crap. And it was a membership video, so I couldn't get back to where I was.
I think you saw this year that he's open, always wants to do like
Okay, here we go.
Jalen's proved this to everybody that he'll do whatever it takes to, and he'll do whatever it takes to win. All I've ever, and he pushes himself to and everybody year in year stand. You know,
Here we go.
year in year out that all he cares about is winning, and all he cares about is being able to hold that trophy up at the end of the year.
Can I clarify one thing? Because I think it's important for our fans to understand. You know, you can do whatever it takes to win now and still build for the future and still have those parallel paths. You know, I just don't want it to get confused that we can't do whatever it takes to build a championship caliber team next year and also continue to have really good players on this team for the future. So, you know, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page on that.
Wow. Wow. Hold on. Hold on, bro. We might need to play that again. We might need because I don't know if y'all truly understood what he said. So let's play it again. It ain't long, right? Here we go.
Is being able to hold that trophy up at the end of the year.
Can I clarify one thing? Because I think it's important for our fans to understand. You know, you can.
First, he clarifies something and he addresses the fans. And he wants the fans to understand something. He wants the fans to understand a philosophy. Brad Holmes doesn't want us to understand his philosophy. He doesn't want to justify his philosophy. He just wants his philosophy to be his philosophy, and you can't question his philosophy. And if you question his philosophy, he will keep receipts and he will try his best to embarrass you in the media because you are a media member after having won nothing. But this man that is a 66% Super Bowl winning GM. Okay? And the one that they lost by 3 points. It wasn't some blowout. Right? He is a 66% Super Bowl winning GM. He's been 3 times. He's won 2 of them with the teams that he's built. And he has said this.
Do whatever it takes to win now and still build for the future and still have those parallel paths. You know, I just don't want it to get confused that we can't do whatever it takes to build a championship caliber team next year and also continue to have really good players on this team for the future. So, you know, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page on that.
So you mean to tell me that this general manager who has built 3 teams that have gone to the Super Bowl, and I say 3 because while teams are largely the same every year, there's still moving pieces, right? There's still free agents to sign. There's still free agents that leave. There's still trades to be made, right? There's still the guys to draft, all of that stuff. So he's built 3 Super Bowl appearing teams. 2 of them have won. The last Super Bowl winning team that he had went twice in 3 years. This is a guy that says we can still do everything we need to do to win now and have a championship caliber team and still have championship caliber team, good players on our team next year. So you're telling me that you do not have to sell the farm, that you do not have to completely compromise the future to be able to build a team that can win the Super Bowl year in and year out. And the year in and the year out part is Very pertinent and relevant. And as I said, I don't know which Lions fan needs to hear this, but I'm pretty sure y'all have fans, friends, and family who are this Lions fan. So make sure you share this stream with them. The sustained success fans. I feel like Howie Roseman was talking about sustained Super Bowl championship success. Not, oh, we just want to go to the playoffs. No, championship contendership success. Meaning every time we come onto the field at the beginning of the season, our goal with the moves that we have made and the roster we have built is to win the Super Bowl, not just to make the playoffs, not just to win double-digit games or not have a losing record or not have a 500 record, which you're not going to be able to do until they add another game, an 18th game to the season. Not to just be in the hunt or in the mix. No. To win the Super Bowl every single year. I'm going to get your reactions to this, and then we're going to talk about some other things that pretty much give credence to what he's saying. All right. Yes for the sound? Okay. Okay. That was All right. Brad made sure our wide receiver room is good for the next 4 years. He's going to go crazy on OL and DL this year. Facts. With what resources? That's all I'm going to say. I'm just that's it. That's it. That's all I'm going to say. With what resources? This is why Brad gets a pass. This is why we accept this mediocrity from our general managers in the city. He made sure our wide receiver room was good. Who gives a damn about the wide receiver room? We had Amon-Ra St. Brown. We had Jameson Williams. Fill the rest of it out. You'd use 3 third-round picks on a wide receiver when you needed desperate help on the offensive and defensive lines. You used a third-round pick on Broderick Martin. You used a third-round pick on Hendon Hooker. You used a third-round pick to trade up and get Manu back up into the 4th round. You used a third-round pick on Carlton Davis and let him walk out of the building. I believe you traded a 3rd and a 5th for Zadarius Smith and let him, and you didn't let him, you cut him. Brother, these 3rd-round picks had the potential to become Yahya Diaby, Bryant Young, Colby Turner, just to name a few. And there will be someone, I can guarantee you, that will be picked after Isaac Tesla. And while you are gooning over the fact that a wide receiver, oh great, that's that's awesome. We picked a wide receiver in the 3rd round. That's awesome. I can guarantee you that someone picked after Isaac Tesla is going to be a boss in the next 2-3 years. And he's going to be disruptive on the defensive line, or he's going to be a road grading, pass blocking, run blocking offensive lineman. He's going to provide excellent protection for his quarterback. And there are people that are still going to be justifying the fact that Isaac Tesla is great because he makes one-handed catches, and that's really what we needed. We had a big body guy in Tim Patrick that could have handled the red zone duties. We did not need Isaac Tesla at the time. Is there a problem with Isaac Tesla as a player? No. He was a luxury pick when we couldn't afford the luxury. What are we doing? Golly, bro. I feel like Dan is calling more shots than it seems like he is. He is the culture leader. All that rah-rah and grit is a byproduct of MCDC. That is true. That is true. But again, as I've said, anybody that thought that the Broderick Martin pick was good and they were at a unified front, both of them should be fired. If you thought that trading a third round pick to get Manu in the fourth was good, then you should also be fired. Because there needs to be pushback when that type of crap happens. What am I listening? I was listening. What do you mean? We were listening to Howie Roseman. I heard that, and that made me fall out of my chair. What is Sheila judging or comparing as to what makes a great GM? Philly has gone to the Super Bowl and Lions have not. Philly has gone to the Super Bowl 4 times. What up, though, just a fan? That was Howie letting Philly fans know that we can get another A.J. Brown. Don't you ever get to thinking. Is the 6th round good for an edge rusher? Yuck. I don't know. 6th round. You tell me. I don't know. 6th round. You tell me. If Brad does not do what he is supposed to this year, he needs to go back to work at Enterprise Car Rental. Brad Holmes has demonstrated he will gamble on broken toys and projects. He deserves the boot if he fails again this year. Facts. All right. Here's the other part that we're talking about that will prove what Howie Roseman is talking about. Are you ready for this? The Los Angeles Rams traded for Matthew Stafford in a move that said F them picks. Then they went out and got Von Miller and Odell Beckham and all these people. Effing them picks and signing the free agents. Won a Super Bowl. The next year, Stafford dealt with injury after injury, yada, yada, yada. They didn't even make the playoffs. And the pick that they gave us turned into the 6th overall pick. Because they were cheeks, right? They were cheeks for the next few years, except they weren't. They reloaded after 1 year and went back to the playoffs and have been in Super Bowl contention ever since. Have not missed the playoffs again and are in a position this Saturday or Sunday. Is it the Sunday night game? This Sunday, if they beat the Bears in Chicago, to go back to the NFC Championship game. And you know what happens after the NFC and the AFC Championship games, right? The Super Bowl. So you're telling me that by saying F them picks and by signing the free agents that would help you get to where you needed to go, you could win a Super Bowl, miss the playoffs 1 year, and for the next 4 years or 3 years, you are in Super Bowl contention every year? You are in the playoffs every year? The Super Bowl came by effing them picks. And you did not sacrifice anything. They probably would have been in the position to defend their Super Bowl title if certain people hadn't got injured. Now you're in a situation where you need an edge rusher. You let the Rams go F them picks again. Did the Rams trade ahead of you to get Jared Verse, or did he just fall to you? No, he fell to he fell to them, right? But instead of going up to get your edge rusher, you just stood there and waited. And then when you're like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. Let me trade up with the Cowboys and get Terrion Arnold. Guess what? The Los Angeles Rams may be going to the Super Bowl this season. And they may well win the Super Bowl this season. And in this year's draft, they're still picking ahead of you. They're still picking ahead of you. And we hear so many things about what Brad tried to do. He tried to get this person. He tried to get that person. He picked up the phone for this person. He picked up the phone for that person. I will admit to you that in the moment, it sounded good to me. I made videos excited because Brad Holmes had made this call or that call, and it looked like there could have been a possibility that this thing would have happened. The move could have come through. But you know what? I started to notice a pattern. And in this pattern, it showed me that Brad Holmes does nothing but try and fail when it comes to acquiring elite talent outside of the draft. He tries and he fails. And even when he makes the trades, he fails to retain the talent. Traded for Carlton Davis, couldn't keep him in the building because you didn't want to pay him. Traded for Zadarius Smith, cut him, kicked him out of the building because you didn't want to pay him. What is it going to take for you to look around and understand that the way you are doing things does not jibe with what you're saying that you want? You're telling me you want to win a Super Bowl. That's the name, the words that you're saying out of your mouth. And let's say you had Kirby Joseph out, you had Aleem McNeil not coming back to form. Hutch did, right? You had Brian Branch. You had Brian Branch get hurt. You had all these things. And those things have hamstrung you, right? Those things have caused you not to be able to compete this year, right? Cool. The backup plan, the contingency plan has been for the longest the vet squad, the practice squad. These are professional practice players. And what do? They practice football professionally. This has been your backup. That man that just sat there, we just heard from him, Howie Roseman, routinely drafts well. Could you guys make Okay. And here's the other thing. Let's say, and I want you guys to answer this question in the chat. Let's say Brad Holmes is a better drafter than Howie Roseman. Let's just say that. Let's give that to Brad Holmes. How much better, guys? Let me know in the chat. If we say, and I'll make it easy for you, I'll quantify it. I'll give you a letter, Dre. Let's say Brad Holmes is an A+ drafter, which he's not. And we know why. Let's say Brad Holmes is an A+ drafter. What kind of drafter is Howie Roseman? I just want to know. And I'll let you answer that. What up, though, Just a Fan? Did Brad really learn under Les Snead? Because it doesn't seem like he learned Nathan. He might have just been in the meeting room busy doodling in his notebook. The whole organization is full of tryhards. I don't believe the Brad Holmes story. I tried. He is exaggerating. Keep up the great work. What up, though, Mr. Detroit City? Okay, so A+. You're putting them on the same footing, right? Howie like the one bumblebee that won't go away. Brad like that one ant who on his last legs. 0.000001% is how much better Brad Holmes is. So if Brad Holmes is A+, Howie Roseman is also A+. Cool. So if there is a difference, it is very negligible. And then Howie Roseman takes draft picks and he takes money and he goes and he grabs people like Jalen Phillips because we need a pass rush and we don't have much of a pass rush. So let's get Zadarius Smith in here. Zadarius Smith's heart wasn't in it. He didn't ever want to be in Philly because he never wanted to leave Detroit. So he retired. Okay, cool. That didn't work. So let's go multiple times during the same season. Multiple times during the same season did Howie Roseman attempt to address one of the biggest needs of his team. So I'm now going to take a 3rd round pick at the trade deadline and trade for Jalen Phillips. But guess what we did when we needed a center? We took a guy in Graham Glasgow who didn't want to play center, and we moved him over to center because our contingency plan was to take a rookie right guard and turn him into a center. And when that didn't work, we had to take a disgruntled player and move him to center, a position he didn't want to play. And then when that didn't work, we put people in there like Kingsley Aguakun and Tristan Colon. Because instead of going outside, all we want to freaking do is promote from within. And that would be great if your freaking players that you're promoting are that dude. Oh, he's a dog. He was just waiting because we had a dog-eared dog in front of him. Really? 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 Jason Kelsey started talking about retiring and said, hey, you know what, Jason? You can help us pick your replacement. Frank Ragnow started talking about retiring. Brad was like, oh, well, just, let us know. Obviously, we'd love to have you, but I'm trying to understand what the contingency plan, because we took a defensive tackle in the 1st round. And like Pierre Sargent always says, Jackson Powers Johnson was available. We took a defensive tackle. So we needed somebody on the defensive line. We needed help. And apparently they wanted to get James Pierce. And of course, they sat there and they let the Atlanta Falcons leapfrog them. And then they were like, oh, it was getting tight. So they panicked and chose Tyleek. Because they admitted to, oh, it was getting tight in there. But you know, Tyleek was high on our board. It was getting tight in there. What do you mean it was getting tight in there? Why didn't you select a center? In his in his press conference that he just had, he told you there were breadcrumbs. There were signs that Frank Ragnow was going to retire. If you knew that the breadcrumbs were there before the draft, why the hell did you not draft a center? In the first round, we didn't need Tyleek Williams at that time. Just like we didn't need Isaac Tesla at that time. This draft was for 3 years into the future. Why? They should have traded Graham as soon as Frank said he was retiring. Who was going to take him? I honestly think that Howie is better than Melvin at drafting. And I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to argue with you because if I go back and look at Howie's drafts, one thing that I know he doesn't do is throw away third-round draft picks. And you know how I know he doesn't do that? Because when we got to the trade deadline, he sent one to Miami for Jalen Phillips. You know, I heard a take after the draft. And it was a short-sighted take. And I know the person who made the take. And I know he was just grappling with trying to figure out the third-round strategy. And it was like, well, across the NFL, GMs don't feel that they can get the value for a third-round pick because the NIL. And guys are staying in. So those guys that would be available in the third round, mostly, maybe they're going back to college. Well, guess what? Third round picks are still bargaining chips. I'm probably going to do this at some point. I'm probably going to look up the percentage of NFL trades that contain first round draft picks because there are not many. There are not many. You have to be getting a player like Myles Garrett. You've got to be getting a player like Max Crosby. You've got to be getting a quarterback, which people don't trade their quarterbacks. Not really. We did, right? You've got to be getting these things to include a first round pick. On the high end of every trade, of almost every trade, if you say, "Oh, that was significant draft capital," you know where they start in the third round. An all-pro center in Joe Thuney could be had for a third round pick. Somebody like DeAndre Hopkins was traded for a fifth round pick. Rounds 1 and 2 are not often part of the trade package unless you're talking about a superstar player. You're not going to get a solid player for a first round draft pick. not even a second round draft pick. A solid player that can help you, who's affordable and attainable, is going to go for a third round pick. And we used three of them on a wide receiver. We used one of them on a project who was not going to get drafted in the NFL, who we eventually cut. And then he got picked up then he got picked up and put on a practice squad by Kansas City and didn't dress. We used a third round pick in that same draft before the guy that wasn't going to be drafted on a quarterback who our general manager went to college with his father, who to this point has not been able to be developed. If he's not able to be developed by two different teams, he's going to start to get the uncoachable situation. He's going to get that label. And I don't think Hendon Hooker is dumb. He's just not taking the coaching for whatever reason. Caleb Williams was in a similar situation the first year of his career when I told you guys that he has to get a coach that is going to coach the hero ball out of him. So maybe Hendon Hooker doesn't allow himself the time to feel comfortable in the pocket because every time he feels the rush in the NFL, he starts running. And he's not particularly great at running. We use a third round pick for that guy. We use a third round pick to trade up for a guy out of British Columbia. And not trade up in the draft. No, trade back into the fourth round. The third round had already passed. The second round had already passed. We didn't use a third round pick to go up. We used a third round pick to go down. Because regardless if the third round pick was over or not, if you're trading into the fourth round, that is asinine. And it makes zero sense. It makes zero sense whatsoever. I don't see Howie Roseman doing these things. So if you want to say that Howie Roseman is a better drafter than Brad Holmes, you're probably correct. Brad Holmes made some splashy picks. He drafted Aiden Hutchinson. He drafted Penei Sewell. He drafted J-Mo. He drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown. He drafted Sam Laporta. He drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. He drafted Jack Campbell. All the guys on this team that we hold near and dear to our hearts, Brad Holmes drafted them. But he put us in a bad position because he thought that third round picks were just monopoly money and they didn't matter. Brad Holmes put us in a bad position because he thought that he could fill in the roster with guys like Marcus Davenport, guys like Emmanuel Mosley, who are just hurt all the time. Brad Holmes is a DB snob. Our secondary has been cheeks literally since he's taken over. We've got two guys in the secondary. Both of them are safeties and both of them are injured. Our best cornerback was a guy that he traded for. He let walk out of the door. So he replaces him with a guy who's not nearly as good because he wanted to save $4 million per year. I don't know who needs to hear this. I don't know what Lions fan that you guys have at your house that you guys have at another house and he's your cousin, he's your uncle, she's your aunt, she's your cousin, he's your brother, she's your sister, he's your father, she's your mother, he's your nephew, she's your niece, he's your next door neighbor, she's your next door neighbor, he's or she's a friend of the family. Whatever Lions fan that needs to hear this, please share the stream, because Brad Holmes is getting a pass in the city and the arrogance has to stop. How many resources did you pour down the drain by making poor choices in the third round? Levi Onwuzurike, second round pick. Josh Pascal, second round pick. Doesn't have a great track record in the second round either, other than Sam Laporta and Brian Branch. I'm just saying. Brad, I wasn't sure. Wasn't Tyleek slated to go in the second round? I believe so. Brad Holmes crows on his big moves and picks, but makes excuses for his misses. He doesn't even make excuses for his misses. What has he said about Broderick Martin and Hendon Hooker? Right? I saw an article the other day that said the Lions are not convinced that Manu can get it done. I saw this guy come to the podium and go, 6th round. I don't know, 6th round. Is that good enough? Y'all been on my ass. 6th round. Guy didn't play a single snap. People were giving him nicknames and everything, the Egyptian magician, because he got on the phone and cried and told Dan Campbell he would die for him on the field. And everybody thought this man was Max Crosby. So many people thought this man was going to be Myles Garrett. So many thought that this man was going to be the next up and coming. He was going to be the answer on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson. Maybe he will. Who cares? I don't know. But I'm on Twitter, and when it is announced he signed back, somebody says some dumbass ish like, can he play next week? And I said, what would make you believe that he'd be able to play next week? He's been injured and rehabbing. He has no football development. He is not in football shape. And someone came in and told me to let people be happy. Be happy about what? A guy that didn't take a single snap for my team in a position in a time when we need defensive line help, when we need edge rushing help. El-Quadin Muhammad had 11 sacks, but he only had sacks in 7 games. He got sacks in bunches. There were 10 games of the 17 in which he didn't have a single snap, a single sack. We're 9-8. We missed the playoffs. Don't you think that in a few more of those games, had we been getting sacks, had we been getting to the quarterback, we might have won? I told people to be careful what they wished for, because they were saying that they didn't care about the division and all we needed to do was be 10-7 and make the playoffs. How'd that work out for you? Because had we been 10-7, there was no guarantee that we were going to make the playoffs. And we didn't even do that. We were 9-8. How'd that work out for you guys? I don't know what Lions fan needs to hear this. How did that work out for you? I need more subscribers. Because I'm just keeping it real. All you Lions fans out there that don't know what the truth sounds like, come to my channel. I'll tell you. I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass. Pause. This is enough. This is ridiculous. This needs to change, bro. We're sitting up here watching Les Snead. We're watching Howie Roseman. We're watching people freaking win Super Bowls and be in contention every single year. And our GM gets in front of the podium and goes, I don't know, 6th round. I don't know. Is that good enough? Hell no, it's not good enough. This Howie Roseman press conference, man, it just made me it made me angry. Like it just made me angry that other people can have nice things. Do you guys realize that goddamn Chicago Bears are one win away from the NFC Championship game? Do you realize that? Osama bin Johnson has his team one win away. Brad Holmes is the best GM in the league, a lot of people wanted to say. And we were all like, most of us were drinking the Kool-Aid. Most of us thought, oh, he's top 3. How? Your refusal to address the pass rush, your refusal to address the offensive line when you knew my man was going to retire. You said it yourself. There were breadcrumbs. Your refusal to wisely use the damn 3rd round picks, not as your playthings, not as your toys, but as resources that can get good players in here that will contribute. Your refusal to stop seeing yourself in these injured players and signing them drops you down quite a few pegs, Brad. You're not in the top 5 until you address these things. Great. You draft very well. Awesome. Except for the 3rd round. And again, you don't have a great track record in the 2nd round either. Drafting Broderick Martin should give you an F grade at drafting. I'm not gonna deny it. I'm not gonna argue with it. Not at all. That's a valid point. It's hard to give him an F just because of the first 4 picks of that draft. They're all pro players, which BH was hung his hat on since that draft. And that's the one thing that puzzles me so greatly. It puzzles me because how can you fail the rest of the draft so spectacularly after having a phenomenal 1st and 2nd round? What had to happen in your head that made you believe you were done? This is the thing. Like when I go back and play that draft in my mind over and over again, I'm trying to understand what made you believe that you were finished. Hey, man. We've done it. We succeeded. You got 4 all pros. Why not try to go get more? Like what? How do you go from Brian Branch to Broderick Martin? And I always miss Hendon Hooker, right? I always miss Hendon Hooker in there. You had 2 3rd round picks. You went from Brian Branch to Hendon Hooker. And then after Hendon Hooker, you said this draft is over. Like, you hang your hat on the success of those first 2 rounds, but what about the rest of it, bro? What about the rest of it? You drafted Colby Sorsdahl in the 5th round over Puka Nacua. And a lot of people pass on Puka Nacua. That's how he got to the 5th round. But the fact that you drafted Colby Sorsdahl blows my mind. Blows my mind. Brad Holmes likes the smell of his own farts. I wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't disagree. Max backup, Aiden Bitchens. Max backup and Aiden Bitchens. Brad loves the smell of his own farts. Got you. All right. Mailbag. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they reading you? Snick. Mailbag. Get your mailbag questions in. Get them in. Bask in it. All right, man. Get those mailbag questions in. Bro. Bro. I hadn't intended to crash out today. I really hadn't. I didn't know it was coming. I'm the opposite of the weekend. You've been afraid of Brad and what he did to you. Oh my God. You don't have to run. I know what you've been through. Just a touch of Brad and it'll set you free. No, not at all. Lord have mercy. I feel it drafting. I feel it drafting, baby. I feel it drafting. I feel it drafting, baby. I feel like I remember them saying that they don't think good players exist after the 2nd round. I think that was one of those Inside the Den episodes. I mean, it could. I don't know. I don't know that they could believe that if they were so over the moon about Isaac Tesla. You had to believe something differently, you know? I don't know, bro. I'm like, how do you have this man sit here in Howie Roseman and do exactly what he needs to do and say exactly what he needs to say to these fans? This man is justifying the moves that he made, which won him a damn Super Bowl. And he still wants to clarify and be clear for the fans. How? How is this real life? How? I just don't understand, bro. It's frustrating. It's frustrating, man. It's frustrating. Speaking of the Packers, and Ron was mysteriously absent the game that we played the Bears. Speaking of the Packers, I told y'all about the beta energy that Matt LaFleur gives off. Did y'all see this thing when the reporter asked Sean McVay basically, did Matt come crying to you about the big bad Osama bin Johnson and what he had done at the handshake and what he did in the locker room. And basically, the answer was yes. And Matt LaFleur is a good friend of his. So whatever. So obviously there's going to be some out for blood, some out for revenge type of energy when it comes to Sean McVay and the Rams this weekend. This is why I can't stand the Packers. Like, there's teams in your division. You don't like any of them. I don't like the Bears. I hate Osama bin Johnson. I don't like the Vikings. But Matt LaFleur is such a beta. And it irks me. It irks me. It would hurt worse to lose to Matt LaFleur than it would have to lose to Osama bin Johnson. Now, a sweep by Osama bin Johnson would have been kind of brutal. But if the Lions had gone 8-9 instead of 9-8, you'd be pick number 13. And from pick number 13, it costs you less to trade into the top 10. I don't know, bro. I don't know. The weekend is here. Everybody enjoy. Be safe. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. There's a lot of stuff y'all do that I wouldn't do. But anyway, once again, the Motor City Cats R&D back at it. We came to give you stats, none of that static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your lines news pragmatic. And we're out. Peace.